Ready when you are, Chair. There is actually nobody in the waiting room anyway at the moment.
No.
Are we expecting people to come? Have they replied saying that they are?
They've registered.
I personally have only heard from the applicant through Patrick Robson. I've not heard from anybody
So you're
yet.
saying that neither the applicant nor the objector is here?
I can't see that'll be Kate to answer them.
Yeah. She's muted at the moment. I think she's looking.
Sorry, Chair, I've just checked my emails and everything. There's nothing in my emails.
And
But there
nobody's
is no
nobody's turned
attendees.
up.
No.
Oh, right. So we presume we carry on in their absence, do we, Mary Claire?
Well, the email, just to let you know, Chair, the email I got from Patrick Robson this morning was 9:14. The heading was premises license variation urgent hearing today. So they have got the information about the hearing then and the date because he's responded. So I don't know why he's not here.
Should I give him a call?
Yes, that'd be a good idea. Yeah, thank you.
Have you got his number on the bottom of? Oh, I'll not ask you that on. Right, I'm going to mute. Oh,
I'll send it you on chat if I can, Mary Claire.
Kate. Oh, Patrick is trying to get on. His clients are trying to get on, and the message just says, "Please wait. You'll be let in." Kate. Patrick is trying to get in. The other guy's trying to get in, but he says they've just got a message saying, "Please wait and you'll be let in shortly."
Yeah, I've just spoken to Richard as well, and he's got the same message. So I've told him to log off and restart again.
Okay.
And if you could tell the other gentleman the same.
Hi, Patrick. Kate's just spoken to Richard, I think your client, who is having the same trouble, and she's just said if you could just log off and start again, she'll see. But so yeah, give that a go. And I think she's on the phone with Richard. Yeah. And it has started. Yeah. Kate, are you on the phone to Richard? Yeah, she's on the phone to your client, I think, because I guess she's just told him to log off and log back on. And he must have rung he's having the same problem as well. I know. Well, I don't know. Yeah, he's tried, but he's just got a circling wheel saying they'll let you in once the live stream starts. He also says someone called Heather from Digital Laws trying to get in as well. So I've hung up and I've said I'll give him a ring when Kate has sorted this guy.
Thanks, Mary Claire. Just wait and see.
At least we rang. We can only be fair, can't we? So,
yeah, of course, yes.
Because we don't know sitting here that someone's trying to get in.
No.
Clive, did Fernie Greaves indicate whether or not they were attending?
Not really. I've had a couple of emails. I've had more emails from Canal River Trust.
Yeah.
And then I've had one earlier this morning, which I copied you into the reply.
Yeah.
From Stephanie Baker, Stephanie Baker, sorry. And that's all I've had. I've had nothing to say whether they're joining or not. Although they've had the invites through the LRA ones, I've not had an LRA one back from them saying.
Okay. Well, that's fine then, isn't it? Kate, have they go on, sorry, you say what you were going to say.
I've just said just sent the registration out to them again, and with the link, it's the same link as before, so I don't understand why they can't get on. What I might also do is just send them a normal panelist link to see if we can get it done that way quicker.
Did someone called Heather register?
Yes, she did.
Because did they leave a contact number?
No.
If they did, no.
It's Heather at Digital. I've sent her one.
Okay, Heather at Digital Law. I'll speak to.
And I've sent it to P. Robson at John O'Connor, Heather at Digital, whatever, and Richard Henderson.
Right. I'll give Patrick a call back and explain. Thank you. Katie's just tried again and it hasn't worked. So, right, I'm just trying to ring Heather from Digital Law now.
Are we going to have to do this by semaphore?
Or to say we were going to start without councillors and they have to call it office. It's gone the other way now. Just can't win.
Yes, unfortunately, it's corporate parenting this afternoon, which I had to give my apologies to. So if it hadn't been on, I could have gone to that.
That's always the same.
Or you could have given apologies to both and wagged off.
Pretend you're at the other one.
Kate, sorry. So that's Heather and Patrick have both tried re-registering and both tried the new links and they can't get in on the new links.
Yeah, I've sent them a different way now that'll just link them straight in.
Okay.
You know, like the link that we normally get, I've sent them that one through. So they should just be able to click on that link.
That is someone.
Come through.
Yeah.
There we go. One down.
Hey.
Hello.
Patrick, I'm just going to ring Heather again to say we've got this direct link now.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, Paul. I'm glad that you made it in the end.
Wait for Kate to be.
Oh, is that somebody
Oh.
coming in?
That's good. Kate, I've just been speaking to Heather and she hasn't had a link since the second link that didn't work. She keeps refreshing.
Okay.
Shall I just send her mine and then she can change her name?
Yeah, if you want to do that.
I've got mine here, so I'll just...
Is it heather@digitallaw.com?
digitallawuk.com.
That's why. Let me. Right. MC, just see if she's received that one.
All right.
I think that's everybody in now, isn't it?
Hi. Hi.
And breathe.
Can everybody hear okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, then thanks, Kate. Jenny, if you'd like to start us off, please.
Hi, thank you for logging on to this Zoom video conference of the Licensing Subcommittee. I am the Democratic Services Officer for this meeting. I'm assisted by my colleague Kate Sheldon, who is the host of the virtual meeting. We will proceed to introductions and housekeeping in a moment, but just a couple of points to note. This meeting is a public meeting and in alignment with the new regulations which permit meetings to be held by remote means will be live streamed for the public to view. To make the meeting run as smooth as possible, can I please ask that participants in the virtual room leave your microphone on mute when you are not speaking. When you want to speak, please raise your hand to the camera or use the virtual hand raise. Only unmute when the chair indicates that you can speak. If at any time any member loses the ability to hear or be heard, they must alert the chair or host as soon as possible. You may see members looking away from their screens at times. This is because they will need to look at an additional screen or device containing papers. At the end of the hearing, the committee will deliberate in private to come to a decision and you will be informed in writing of that decision. I will now hand back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Councillor Andy Bainbridge. I'll be chairing this afternoon's meeting. And we'll go around and do introductions first. First of all, my fellow committee members who will be making the decision this afternoon. If they'd like to introduce themselves, Sinead.
Hello, I'm Councillor Sinead Meyer Richards. I'm a councillor for Manor Ward.
Thank you. And Adam.
Yeah, Councillor Adam Hurst, councillor for West Ecclesfield Ward.
Thank you. And we go on to the officers of the council who have been helping us make the decision this afternoon. Mary Claire.
Hi, I'm Mary Claire Frankie, solicitor to the subcommittee today.
And Clive.
Hi, I'm Clive Stevenson. I'm the licensing officer to the committee today.
Thank you. And if you could introduce yourselves, I'll just have to use the names that it says there until you tell us. So, Paul.
Okay, so my name is Patrick Robson from John Gaunt and Partners. I've been called Paul today for some reason, but I don't mind.
So is it Patrick or?
It is Patrick.
Yeah, so Patrick's okay. And you're from?
John Gaunt, solicitor for the applicant.
Solicitors for the applicant, right. The next one that says Richard.
Good afternoon, my name is Richard Henderson. I am the licensee of the Dorothy Pax Limited down here at Victoria Keys.
Thank you. And Heather.
I'm Heather Ensign. I'm with Digital Law and we represent Dorothy Pax in matters other than licensing.
Thank you. Right, in that case, just quickly to say that this is a quasi-judicial hearing and we are live streamed this afternoon. And because of the nature of this meeting, I go over to our solicitor at this point to go through the order of the procedures. So if I can hand over to Mary Claire.
Thanks, Chair. We've got a straightforward procedure this afternoon. Firstly, the licensing officer will introduce the report. So that's Clive. Questions concerning the report can be asked by members and the applicant. If there's anything wrong in there, please raise it. The licensing officer will then in turn would normally introduce representatives for the responsible authority or interested parties, but there are no objectors present, although there is obviously one objection live, which is why we're here. So it'll be over to the applicant or nominated representative to detail the application, to provide clarification on the application and respond to the representations that have been made. The applicant, licensee or representative can be asked questions by members. The applicant will then be given an opportunity to sum up the application. The licensing officer will detail the options. There will then be a private session for members to take legal advice. The decision of the licensing committee will be given in accordance with the Licensing Act and all the regulations made thereunder. You'll get a short email this afternoon letting you know what the outcome is, and the full determination notice with reasons will come out later. It is a public hearing. It is being live streamed, but obviously those people can't interrupt. So that's the people in the room are the people in the room. And you can ask for legal advice, Chair, at any time you or your colleagues want it. And I think, in a nutshell, that's it.
Right, thank you. If I just say, in addition to what Jenny said to you, we do have a very set procedure where you've plenty of time to ask questions. So it shouldn't really be necessary to put up your hand, but please feel free if you need to. But we do have a set procedure, and we will go through that procedure, and you'll get a chance to take part. Right. So this, I hope you've all got the bundle, the application, and Clive will now go through the report.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, everybody. This case is application reference number 86/20. It's an application today to vary a premises licence made under the section 34 of the Licensing Act 2003 for a premises known as Dorothy Pax Arch 17, Wharf Street, Sheffield, S25SY. The application being obviously from Richard Henderson through Dorothy Pax themselves, and we're represented today by John Gaunt as the applicant for licensing, and obviously digital law as well on non-licensing matters. The reasons for referral, Chair, are set out in section 3 of the report. These we received one valid objection regarding this application today. They were invited, as were the licensees, ex-ASA and representation. They've up to now failed, obviously, to turn up to this hearing today, but there is one valid objection detailed in section 3 of the report, and is at, I think it's Appendix C that it's actually at. Just to be wider on that, Appendix C does actually state, "Dear Michael." Just the background on that objection was by email and obviously had personal information. So it has been, the heading has been taken out. Michael is an officer of the council that was dealing with the initial application, Chair, Michael Crowshaw. So that's why there's a "Dear Michael" on the front of that objection today. It's nothing to do with anybody whose party was present today. It's just the officer who was involved. The legal financial position, Chair, there's no financial implications today arising from this application. The legal position is set out in section 5 of the report regarding the Licensing Act. The hearing regulations are section 6. I won't go through all those. And the appeals will be dealt with at a later stage in the responses to the applicant and the objectors at the end of the hearing when we have a decision made. And our recommendations as officers is you consider all the representations today, whether those in person or writing, and you can take such steps as appropriate for the promotion of any of licensing objectives.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we can ask any questions of the report, but this is just the report at this stage. Adam, do you have any questions on the report? Shona, do you have any? No? Do any of the applicants, you are all for the applicant, aren't you? There's no one else, so you're all happy with that? Okay, right. So at this point then, we will simply go over to yourselves to outline the application that you've made. So we'll start first.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon to everyone, Chair and members. So principally we're joined by Richard Henderson, who is the director of the applicant, Dorothy Pax Limited. He's a man that's been in the hospitality industry for many years, since he's been about 12 years old. He's been a washer-up in Michelin-starred restaurants, he's cooked, he's worked bar, he's waited tables, he's done it all. He's run pop-up restaurants and organised events as well for over 20 years. He's always had connections with other events management, such as Tramlines, Hillfest and other things in the Sheffield area. He lives on a boat on just outside the Victoria Quays itself, so he's actually a local resident to this particular area, and he cares greatly about this particular area in particular, and he would never want to see any adverse impact on it at all. He had a passion for entering the Sheaf Keys community back in the day, and you may have seen some of the comments from some of the supporting sort of residents and businesses about, really glowing comments about the premises itself, the way it's, it's comported itself, and the staff as well, how they make the community better and go above and beyond to help local residents as well. So he decided he wanted to set up his bar, the Dorothy Pax. It was a small independent business, which also a big feather in his cap. It's an arts council funded venue recognised as culturally significant in the local Sheffield area as well. So quite impressive. So we decided to apply for it to be a licensed premises in September 2017. It had opened a few months prior to then as unlicensed, but it undertaken licensed activities under a series of temporary event notices for a number of months and thought, I'll get a permanent licence. At that time, he got the licence granted. There were some agreed conditions with the Environmental Health and Health Protection Services teams, but there was no need for a hearing. It was conditions that were added to the licence and all agreed. And he has trading hours currently of either between midnight and 1 AM, depending on what day of the week it is. He's got 1 AM on a Friday and Saturday. And there was no objections from local residents at that time, no objections from the police. And just for the avoidance of doubt in terms of this application, the internal premises and its internal hours are not being changed at all by what we are seeking to do under this current variation. That is not the subject of this particular matter. So the application itself, it's clearly very sort of unprecedented times for the licence industry, very worrying times. Multiple lockdowns have been placed on premises. You've got social distancing issues as well, where you can't have your full capacities in venues because you've got to ensure customers are properly distanced. So anecdotally, there's lots of applications out there to get outside trading areas, outside seating as well, to sort of expand your sort of capacity levels and help with customer flow. So outside bars are popular at the moment, make sure there's not too much customer flow or staff flow inside and outside premises for physical distancing. And he's always run events in the outside areas as well. A large number of events he's running outside in the Victoria Keys area, and always secured temporary event notices to do that. And you will have seen, hopefully, from my supplementary bundle, pages 1 and 2, lists a very large number of temporary event notices that he's put in over the years. And the vast majority of those are all for sort of outside events, which have included sale of alcohol and regulated entertainment on numerous times. And he's got no known issues resulting from those events at all. And one event he ran, just by way of example, is there's a sort of a tram lines adjacent event he does on a yearly basis called Canal Lines in that area. So you'll see in the bundle as well I put in, there's an indicative example of the risk assessments, the sort of things he undertakes with other professionals in terms of staging, etc., to ensure that event is run safely, responsibly and properly, and sort of keeps the licensing objectives and their promotions in mind. So I wasn't going to take you through that information, but you may have seen it already. Now, the Canal and River Trust knows about these events, and so Victoria Keys Management knows about these events. They are even provided with the appropriate risk assessments as well for their information. And the reason I put that sort of info in is just to show he's not an inexperienced operator. This isn't his first rodeo doing outside events. He's just done multiple over the years, all without particular problems. He knows how to plan a safe event and put one on. And these are events that are good for the local economy, they're good for local businesses, and they add to the vibrancy of that local area as well, and obviously good for the live music scene, which is obviously something really suffering in this day and age. In the words of Alison Ross, in page 22 of my particular bundle, she says, won't take you there necessarily, but I'll just read one of the things she says: "The variety of music acts on my doorstep is something I've never dreamed of in the early days of a deserted quayside." So again, vibrancy in that local area from a local resident, happy and supportive of these sorts of events. And to say, quite frankly, local live music is definitely going to be needing a boost when we all come out of lockdown, and because the industry is really much struggling. And this is something that would help that. None of his temporary event notices have ever received an objection either. So the police and environmental health teams have the ability to object, never had an objection. And to me, that's a testament of how well he's been running these over the years with no issues. And I say it's worth mentioning that some of the events he's run are also not just off his own back, but also in conjunction with the Canal and River Trust and in conjunction with Victoria Keys Management as well. I think Richard can correct me, but the Victoria Keys birthday event is one such example of that, where he's running events in conjunction with these sort of bodies down there. So the landlords are very much aware of and know about these events that have been run over the years. So part of the current application is to try and stop the requirement to obtain temporary event notice after temporary event notice and give them that level of flexibility. but also allow them to do other external events as well. So it seeks plays, films, live music, recording music, performance of dance and sale of alcohol in certain designated external areas. But of course, we're aware that that could be controversial. There's local residents of businesses there and others that might be impacted. So the application built in limitations as to what could be done. And one of those limitations built into the application was that those activities would only be allowed in those outside areas between 9 in the morning and 10 in the evening. So no later than 10 p.m. as the latest terminal hour. And if you look at that list of temporary event notices I provided, the vast majority of those for outside areas, a couple might have ended at 9 p.m, but most ended at least at 10 p.m, if not later. So under this variation, he's not particularly seeking later than he's already traded numerous times under these temporary event notices. And so further limitation he wanted to offer was actually, we wanted to give assurances there wouldn't be sort of one of these external events every day of the week all year round. So he was happy to say for regulated entertainment outside, for live and recorded music regulated entertainment, he would limit that to 8 days per year. So no more than 8 days per year would they do these sort of events that could occur. And I'll address you further because that is going to be restricted down a little bit further by the end of my submission. And for sale of alcohol as well, he wanted to offer no more than 12 days per year to have sale of alcohol in designated external areas, other than from the bar he would like to have just outside his actual premises, to give him that flexibility in the summer months when it's sunnier, that he could serve his customers from the outside bar. But in terms of an event, if there's sale of alcohol from an outside bar, no more than 12 days per year. But again, we are going to reduce that down. There was an amendment put forward to the children's condition as well. There's not been an objection to that, so I'm going to stay away from, which I think is quite an undisputed area. It's something I had discussed with the police verbally and also with Julie Haig, but they've not raised any problems with that particular amendment. So I can answer questions on that if need be. But in effect, principally what this application before you is for a limited number of external music events to a 10 p.m. maximum external hour in a kind of in brief. During the consultation period after submission, Richard was approached by the manager of the nearby Houseboat Hotels, who had a slight concern about maybe the music early in the mornings might clash with checkout of their guests, and he took those points on board. And the very same day, we got an amendment into the application. So that's the thing you'll see also in the bundle on pages 3 and 4. So the application was officially revised a while ago, stating that for these outside licensable activities, they would not commence prior to midday. So the earliest start would be midday. So we're only seeking between midday and 10 p.m. for these outside events. And we also reduced down the size of the external areas sought to be licensed. You will hopefully have seen that revised plan in my bundle. The license area sought is much more limited in its scale than what was initially put in. So that's pages 3 and 4 of the bundle. So in terms of representations, I think it's, for those who I've appeared in front of before, I always start, I think it's more important to look at some of the representations that aren't here today before you. And you don't have any today from the responsible authorities. And I would suggest the absence of objections from those particular parties should be taken as a positive inference for this particular application. The police, South Yorkshire Police, of course, are the statutory body identified for their expertise in crime and disorder. And you as the licensing authority will look to the police as your main source of advice on matters of crime and disorder. Guidance paragraphs 2.1, 9.12, you'll be familiar with those, and indeed echoed by your own licensing policy saying the same thing. The police clearly have no issues with the proposal, otherwise they'd be here today before you. And I'd ask you to place substantial weight on that fact, particularly as one of the issues for consideration is worries about antisocial behaviour in the area. And further, police didn't even have extra conditions or suggestions or amendments to suggest to the licence. And I spoke to them about the application, so we know they've considered it. And the main query was about that children's condition, but the police, your key source of advice of crime and disorder, have had no negative comments to make. Your environmental health team, of course, are the experts in noise disturbance. And again, guidance paragraph 9.15, you look to them to be your main source of advice in matters about noise nuisance. So there's no objection again before you today from them. So again, I would suggest an inference that they have no issues. If they'd looked at their record, seen a host of noise complaints associated with this premises, they would have a live objection before you today, but they do not. And we did discuss with Bob Singh during the consultation period about the application, what we were seeking to do. And what the application might allow is some larger scale events to be held down in the Victoria Keys region. So we discussed those with Bob Singh, and he was happy with some conditions to be included on the licence to address any of his concerns. So I'll take you through them again towards the end of my submission. but these are a robust and comprehensive set of conditions that for any larger sort of events, there will be key controls in place to address any potential noise nuisance. And those were agreed, that wording, in the format that Bob Singh wanted. There wasn't a back and forth as you sometimes get between applicants and objectors. He put those conditions forward, checked with the client, and he was happy to agree those. Again, he was expecting such things to happen, and he was very quickly agreed to sort of what Mr. Singh had put forward. And furthermore, we also have your health protection services, obviously your experts in the health and safety at premises and health and safety of customers. So again, it'd be reasonable to expect them to intervene and put comments in if they thought there were any health and safety, public safety issues here. And I think we could all probably agree they're not particularly shy at coming forward with representations when need be. So again, you would expect them here today for you if they had particular issues. And again, your licensing policy identifies fire service, South Yorkshire Fire, and the health and safety team as your main source of advice on public safety. Again, the lack of objection from them, I suggest, would be a positive inference that they don't believe there would be health and safety or public safety issues. Turning to the one objection that you got before you, of course, there's a legal framework to your decision making here today, that it is an evidence-based decision. And I would suggest that the temporary event notices that have been held over many years and haven't resulted in issues are a good set of evidence that previous events have not caused issues, nor should you be unduly concerned that events going forward under a variation would cause particular problems. And obviously, to reinforce that lack of objection from the police and health protection services and agreed conditions with the HO suggests that they would agree the same as well. Your legal advisor will know, and you will be well aware, that for a representation to be relevant, it must, guidance paragraph 9.4, for example, should relate to the impact of licensable activities carried on from the premises on those licensing objectives. So other points raised by objectors are not relevant to the application at hand. This is a variation as well, it's not a review application. So any decision is about the outdoor licensed area and the impact of licensable activities that are proposed on the licensing objectives. There are some things in the objection which I'll touch on, but which in my view, in my submission, are not particularly relevant for the application. So we've got this one objection in. It's from Stephanie Brooke from Fernie Greaves, who said they manage the site on behalf of Victoria Keys Management Company. And just one of the points she touches on initially, which I'll address in brief, is about permission to use the area. So I think we respectively say we potentially disagree with the sort of the permission structure that needs to exist to hold certain outside events, or have the outside bar that has been located under temporary event notice in the past. And that's one of the reasons why Ms. Anson's here from Digital Law, because I'm no expert in sort of these sort of property or lease elements. So should you have questions about that, she can maybe address them. But I also put in a correspondence from Heather to the Victoria Keys Management as well, addressing some of those concerns previously, which you may have seen. I mean, ultimately, in my view, with my sort of legal hat on, the rights and wrongs of whether that area can be used or not, and those discussions is a matter ongoing for the parties to discuss, because we have had events there in the past with the full knowledge of certain parties, and we would hope to have those events in the future. Certainly we want to work with the objector, and indeed always did reach out last week to try and have a meeting, perhaps before this one. Unfortunately, they couldn't accommodate a meeting with us, but the meeting will go ahead with them sort of after this licensing hearing is completed. I think it's going to be next month from what Richard said. So hopefully optimistic going into that meeting to discuss what the issues are and what their views are. And we'd be disappointed, of course, if they take the view that they would preclude any further events outside at this particular area, if they take that view, particularly with the successful events that have been run in the past. But for me, in my submission, the focus of the committee's decision today is its statutory function of considering these licensable activities and the impact those could have on the licensing objectives, and disagreements outside that scope is for the parties to look at and address going forward. So one of the points in the objection was about this outside bar. So again, Heather from Digital Law may be able to talk about that with you, and there were concerns about health and safety with that particular area. I think we can only disagree with those particular comments. When the outside bar has operated numerous times under temporary event notices, there's never ever been a health and safety hazard at play. We can discuss that further if need be. And quite frankly, that area is safer, and I'll address this further soon, but with the bar running and with those sort of areas in operation, the area is safer and there's less antisocial behaviour by virtue of that being there. And just on that point, I think the objector did touch on some fatalities that has occurred in this area tragically over the years. I know the implication wasn't necessarily it's anything to do with the premises, but just to reiterate that these are very tragic occurrences that have happened. I think there's been 3 deaths to my knowledge in that particular area. It's important, I probably think, to say the names of those people that did lose their lives. I think it's a gentleman, Adam Miles, Alex Wilson and Nicholas White, but they were totally unrelated to the premises or any event that the premises may have run. They were sort of tragedies in their own right, which are isolated incidents, but not at all in relation or connection to the premises at hand. When events have been run, they've always been done so responsibly and without issues, and any sort of safety issues always form part of any risk assessments that they do undertake. And again, the more people are in the area, the more people in that area down at Victoria Quays, the safer it will be, the better lit it's be. The premises has festoon lighting all up, so it's safer, the area for the premises being there. And if events are run, obviously they risk assess the need for appropriate stewarding or barriers or any those sorts of things. So these things are always taken into consideration. She mentioned as well about being late night entertainment. I think we'd take issue with that. Again, we're only seeking till 10 p.m. at the very latest. We run temporary event notices beyond that time on numerous occasions as well. And also the entertainment will be quite irregular in nature. Again, we're only seeking it was 8 times per year for live or recorded music that comprises regulated entertainment. And again, we're going to reduce that down a little bit further as well. She mentions about the licence area encroaching on footways and road paths. Again, that's something that the premises is particularly mindful of. And again, that forms part of the reason the application is limited. You don't want to be blocking up these areas on a regular basis. So any envisaged larger external entertainment, I say, will be of an irregular nature, which is why we put forward that condition to limit the number of days per year it could be. And quite frankly, if the area was inherently dangerous, no events would be allowed to occur there whatsoever. And it's worth noting as well, I think, that the Canal and River Trust undertakes its own events. So Mr. Henderson does his events, the Canal and River Trust undertakes its own events as well without him, and sometimes they put on events in conjunction together. So that there can't be an inherent danger or safety issues with that particular part of the premises or that particular area of Victoria Quays. And things like the roadway, the vehicular access, the footpaths, again, that's all taken into account under risk assessments that are done, and that you'll see part of the risk assessment I put in the bundle addresses that particular issue as well. So he's well aware of those as being a potential problem, and those are addressed in risk assessments. Turning to sort of complaints about noise from the Dorothy Packs. Well, the premises itself, and Richard's never received a complaint directly from any residents or businesses, so he's slightly surprised by that particular allegation. And in fact, the evidence I'd suggest before you is to the contrary here. The application has received no objection about any noise concerns either from residents or business, which obviously bodes well. And you've heard us about us revising the application as well from the comments from the houseboat manager that to cut down the hours sought, so it would only start from midday outside. But to draw your attention to some of the comments that some of these local residents and businesses have placed in, again, I won't necessarily take you to each page in the bundle, but just to quickly read them out. Drew Colgrave, founder of one of the local businesses nearby. I've never noticed any issues, no noise, no mess. Only good spirits, good people joining together. I found the Dorothy Packs brings people together, creates positive vibes, and there are no negatives. So quite a sterling testament there to the premises. Alison Ross, another local resident. As I said about the variety of music acts on our doorstep, is something she never dreamed of in the early days of a deserted quayside. It's the sort of noise, in inverted commas there, that exploits the potential of this city centre location. Together with our fantastic grey to green boulevard, the Dorothy Packs is an asset that I appreciate. So again, glowing report. And she also says, as for noise, I hear more from rowdy guests using the Airbnb flats in the warehouse. Sheffield Narrowboats Limited. We are unaware of any complaints or disputes associated with past events, many of which were jointly promoted with the Canal and River Trust, Victoria Quays Management. So again, another local sort of business that hasn't been aware of any particular noise issues at all. There's also an allegation about antisocial behaviour as well, and that they've been informed, the objector, of that's been emanated from the Dorothy Pack. So again, some of the residents, we've not forced a pen in their hand to write these, to write these comments. We've reached out to them, but what they say is up to them. So sometimes it's a bit of a warts and all what they've said in their paperwork they filed. But we'll dispute that antisocial behaviour comes from the premises whatsoever. I would say this being passed on by the objector is hearsay, which I fully accept, can be placed before you as evidence in a licensing hearing. But I'd ask you to place the appropriate weight on that particular fact of that it is hearsay. and particularly as well in light of the positive comments that are coming from the local residents, which is not itself hearsay, but is direct evidence. So Chris Needham, a boat owner who lives nearby, says, after viewing the recent objection from Victoria Keys Management regarding your proposed licence extension, I feel I must write to air my opinions on the matter in hand. Having lived in the immediate vicinity of the Dorothy Packs for several years, I must state I have never been disturbed or annoyed by people or noise coming from that establishment. Any antisocial behaviour in the area is mostly since the spring COVID lockdown, has been from people coming from the city centre and congregating the quays, bringing with them cheap alcohol, obviously purchased in supermarkets and not the Dorothy Packs. It's my opinion the Dorothy Packs encourages a peaceful and friendly drinking environment and creates a welcoming and important social hub within the local community enjoyed by many. So again, a glowing report from someone who lives nearby. And again, the Sheffield Narrowboats Limited, the presence in Victoria Keys has acted as a disincentive for street drinkers to gather. Indeed, the issue of antisocial behaviour mentioned in the objection was during the period when Dorothy Packs was subject to closure during the COVID lockdown. Anthony Walker, as an older member of the community, I found the Dorothy Packs to be a welcome addition to my area. Music often quiet and respectful during late hours. I found the level of antisocial behaviour has largely decreased as a result of their presence. I feel they take more than the necessary precautions to ensure everyone is safe on the canal side. I've no doubt they will continue to uphold these standards in the future. And again, the letter from Suzanne and Paul Woods, who live in close proximity, they talk about in brief how the premises helps monitor the area and is a vital part of the community. And to me, that all reinforces that all these allegations of antisocial behaviour isn't something that's coming from this premises at all. You'll see time and time again in these supportive comments put in by local residents and businesses, if there is antisocial behaviour, it's from other people coming down from town. And actually the premises has tried to address this and actually go above and beyond really what they need to do to try and tackle this situation. For instance, they've talked to people that are causing issues and tried to discourage them, and they've arranged, for instance, portable toilets in the local area to stop any people from the street drinking cultures, if they're sort of using the local areas as a toilet facilities, they actually put in portable toilets when they didn't need to try and address that situation. So again, they're very community minded and trying to make the community a better place. In terms of the suggesting the hours of operation are late, again, I think I've addressed that, but the hours we've put in are not particularly late, even though it is an outside area application. The application is limited in nature. And again, these complaints are either hearsay or incorrectly attributed to the premises at hand. And again, to remind you, there's no objections from local businesses or residents in front of you. And in fact, the alternative, there's lots of messages from support in the bundle. And I think one notable one I just do need to mention is we have a gentleman called Andy Weir, and you'll see that, I think it's 26C within my particular bundle. Now, Mr. Weir is actually a director of Victoria Keys Management Company. And he did say that the application at hand was not tabled at the board meeting of 23rd December, which is quite right because we didn't apply for this variation until the 25th of September, so it couldn't have been. But he does also say, interestingly, he's not been consulted since with regards to this particular matter. So unfortunately, the objector is not here today to clarify, but one of the questions I might have asked for her is actually how many directors of Victoria Keys Management Company are aware of or have, commented on this particular application. What he did say is, I've reviewed the info you sent over, and whilst I appreciate the concerns with the objection, I am, as discussed, keen to support fellow business owners and ultimately the growth of Victoria Keys as a destination. So as long as your proposal implemented safely and considerably, I have no objections. You have my support. Best of luck progressing with the application and for the business during an extremely challenging time for us all. So again, a director of the company that is part of the objection has no issues with what has been proposed. And a reminder that the objection was put in on behalf of Victoria Keys Management Company, but one of the directors was not even aware of that particular objection. I can't speak for the other 5 directors if they're aware, but we know one of the 6 certainly has no knowledge of the objection or didn't, and actually wouldn't have agreed with the objection itself. So the application has been amended a few times, and part of the amendments we've placed in there are with conditions, and that is pages 32 and 33 of my bundle. So I'm not sure whether members have considered those, but to take you through those in quite brief. There's the change with the condition agreed with Julie Haig from the Safeguarding Partnership. So I don't think that's caused any particular issues, and she was happy with that. We have a long list of robust conditions agreed to the satisfaction of Bob Singh, who's your key advisor in noise disturbance and noise nuisance issues. And those conditions are effectively triggered if Mr. Henderson seeks to do a slightly larger scale event outside. All of those conditions come into play, and they're quite robust conditions that you'd expect from any sort of larger scale event. So the event would only really go forward if it gets the approval and the permission effectively of your environmental health team. And if the event ended and there was problems, again, they'd likely be vetoed going forward. But you've got those conditions built in as a comfort to you that any of these larger events would not cause issues and would be put forward responsibly, addressing all sort of concerns that might arise in terms of noise. We've amended that condition as well about we won't do the activities prior to noon, prior to 12 midday. In terms of how many days we're seeking to do these, we're going to limit those both to 5 days. So just for the avoidance of doubt, regulated entertainment, which includes live or recorded music, will not take place in these external license areas put forward on more than 5 days a year. So another limitation there. It was 8, it's now going down to 5 days a year. So again, a very sort of limited application. And sale of alcohol in these external licensed areas, other than this bar directly outside the premises, but sale of alcohol maybe from other bars that might accompany these music events, again, we'll just limit that to 5 days as well. So we'll sort of match those together. So 5 external music events where it's regulated entertainment, live and recorded music, and or sale of alcohol as well. And also, I discussed it with Mr. Henderson as well, and we thought, well, there have been some health and safety concerns raised, and again, no surprise, I mentioned the fact that your health protection service is not here before you today, but actually, absolutely unsolicited by any person or authority, we thought it best, again, maybe for the extra comfort of members, we put forward another condition just looking at sort of public safety as well. So we've put forward a condition, despite no objection from the health protection services, who again are not shy about coming forward with these things, that again, for any of these sort of larger scale events envisaged by the environmental health conditions, that no later than 6 weeks prior to such events, a risk assessment will be filed with your health protection services. So again, they will be directly notified of an intention to hold perhaps any one of these larger music events. And of course, they can comment as they feel appropriate on receipt of those risk assessments. But again, they've never had issues with temporary event notices in the past, nor this particular application. So hopefully not to unduly labour the points, but in kind of a summary, the premises has undertaken itself and comported itself with an excellent track record over the years, especially in relation to temporary event notices for outside events. You've got no objections from any residents, any businesses, any responsible authorities here today. In fact, you've got direct evidence from local residents and local businesses. They don't have issues of concern with the application. And they talk about not just licensing matters, but how far the premises has gone above and beyond over the years to be an asset to this particular local community and what they have done to try and do that. Again, Mr. Henderson is part of this local community and he bears that in mind, is very mindful of that. You've got very robust conditions that were put forward, I would say, in the initial application to limit the application in that first instance. Further conditions agreed in the consultation period with Bob Singh, your noise expert, your key advisors on noise. And again, we've offered this wholly unsolicited condition relating to the provision of a risk assessment to health protection services, just to provide that extra level of comfort in case members did have a particular concern about health and safety of these sort of events. That's the submission. I'm aware there's a closing, but should you have any particular issues that I can address or Heather or Richard can address them, I'd be happy to help.
Thank you. That seemed to be very thorough. Is there anybody else wants to add anything at this stage, or shall we progress to questions?
No questions. I thought that was very substantial. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Adam, do you have any questions?
Yeah, no, I think the questions that I'd got planned before they've been answered. I do, apart from one, I think you did mention, Patrick, that somebody who would be able to give us a little bit more clarification on the law regarding the use of the outside space. You know, some people are saying you're not supposed to use that. There's never been any objections.
Yes,
just
so Heather from Digital Law is a bit more sort of up to speed of that sort of law. I think,
yeah.
To reiterate what I said earlier, I think that's a matter for the parties going forward, but Heather should hopefully be able to assist in terms of that.
Right.
In terms of the use of the outside space by the tenants within that, in the lease, they do permit the outside use without parameters written in, but it's assumed that it'll be reasonable. In addition to that, the entire area outside the quays that is generally considered part of the Canal and River Trust is covered under a deed of covenant, 1997. And as part of the lease, it includes that the Dorothy Pax as a tenant has rights in common. So if the Canal and River Trust has the right to put on events, then so does the tenant there. So they do share that rights in common. So from a legal standpoint, they have the same right to use that outdoor space as the Canal and River Trust does, as do other members of the public who want to hold events there. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, that's it basically. Yeah, all my questions are answered. Thank you. I'll mute myself.
Right, thank you. I'm very pleased to have heard you say that you are going to be in consultation with the managers. Obviously, as you say, that's not necessarily anything to do with us as a committee, but we would be interested to know that you were going to go through those things. So I'm pleased about that. Only one question that I have, it may have been that I've missed it in your bundle, and you didn't go into details because, of course, there's been no issues on it. I'm particularly interested in the protection of children. Do you operate the 25 scheme?
Yes, we operate the Challenge 25.
Challenge 25, yes.
That's what we do down here. We've also attended the courses for child safety and protection as well, which are run by Sheffield City Council, in terms of being watchful for children in school uniforms, and in terms of with their parents, and mindful of the fact that if they've collected them at 4 o'clock, then by 5 o'clock they need to be at home with their parents having their supper. So we are mindful of the requirements of children, really, and we do Challenge 25. There's a pretty stringent safeguarding in place there, in policies and procedures, and we'd insist usually that children are off site, obviously with their parents or guardians, by 8 or 9 o'clock.
Thank you. That's a very thorough answer. Thank you. In that case, I have no more questions now, so I'll ask Marie Claire, do you have any? No? Clive, do you have any?
Just one, Chair, for Patrick, if I can. Just for clarification, Patrick, you'd mentioned temporary event notices at the site. Was that all Dorothy Pack's temporary events, or just temporary events that happen at the site? Because I was trying to get around the petition saying, if I wondered if any temporary event notices have gone ahead by Dorothy Pack's without the permission of the landowners as such. Because obviously that's the stumbling block that we all seem to be looking at, is the landowners have said they don't want anything on there to us. And I'm just wondering if those temporary events in the past have been in conjunction with the landowners, or they just didn't seek, as Heather's just pointed out, they don't need to seek permission because they've got joint permission, as it were. Were those in conjunction with the landowners or just put on as events at the time?
Might be one for Richard to address. I know some of them would have been in conjunction with, I'm sure he can clarify.
We have done temporary events notices in conjunction with Victoria Quays management. In particular, there's the birthday of Victoria Quays, which happens in twice a year, like the Queen, in February and then again in September. So in 2017, 2018 and 2019, there were at least 2 events run in conjunction with VQM, Victoria Quays Management, and the Canal and River Trust. So we have jointly worked together on events.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. As I said, you offered a very robust presentation, covered a lot of areas that perhaps you weren't expected to, which is very encouraging. If there is anything left, if you'd like to sum up, then I think we're at that stage now.
Actually, Heather's got a hand up. Did you want to say something, Heather?
I just wanted to quickly clarify in that the events, he has coordinated as much as possible with VQM, but it is not all events have been coordinated with them. So there is the batch that have been, and that's particularly for very large events and where most of the quayside is going to be used, as opposed to some of the music events. Those have not had the same cooperation unless he felt it was necessary.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Heather. I missed your hand. I do apologise. So anyone else have anything to say before we move on to summing up? No? Okay then.
Thank you, Chair. Well, My summing up was almost done a minute or two ago, but just in sort of
Yes.
very brief, it's an evidence-based decision. You know, you will look at the sort of evidence presented to you, and one of them in guidance 9.44 talks about you can consider wider issues such as conditions already in place to mitigate potential negative impact on the promotion of the licensing objectives and the track record of the business. And I'd suggest robust conditions have been put in front of you, and the track record of the business is excellent. To alleviate, and those 2 points should hopefully alleviate any concerns you might have had. Again, no objections from the responsible authorities, from the police, from the environmental health, other than agreed conditions, health protection services, and an evidence base of multiple temporary rent notices over the years for outside activities with no issues. Legal advisor will talk to you about thwaites, as you may well be aware anyway, so I just mentioned the word thwaites and she'll understand what that means in terms of case law. Again, no objections from local residents either, but direct evidence from local residents, local businesses, that they do not think the licensing objectives will be adversely impacted. Again, of course, the objectives not here today, but if they were, you may say to them, or we would say as well, you've got the review, the premises license review mechanism. If there's issues going forward, which we wouldn't anticipate there would be, but there's a premises license review mechanism to address those if there are particular issues. But other than that, we would respectfully ask and invite you to grant the application put forward together with those conditions that we've listed in pages 32 and 33 of the bundle. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Anyone else wish to say anything? No, if not, then we go up to the licensing officer for our options this afternoon.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Your options are stated at section 9 of the report. These to vary the premises licence as applied for in the terms requested. To vary the premises licence with conditions added that you may deem fit, or to reject whole or part of the application.
Thank you. So all that remains of me is to say thank you very much for attending this afternoon. I'm glad you were able to get in the end. I'm sorry about the problems that we had to begin with, but I'm glad we made it, and thank you for your presentations. And as was indicated earlier, you will be notified quite quickly today, followed up by a much more robust answer. So thank you again, and as I say, you'll be hearing shortly. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just need to say bye-bye to Clive, unfortunately. Bye-bye, Clive.
Speak to you in a bit.
All right. I go over to my fellow councillors. I think.
I just think,
is it?
yeah, I'm amazed at how simple it is.